All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to equip you with the ultimate survival tool for navigating organizational chaos. Look, whether you're running a lean startup or steering some massive multinational corporation, the foundation of your success really comes down to one fundamental management skill, and that's planning. Navigating today's chaotic business landscape is notoriously tough, but the difference between a good plan and a great plan, that's often the difference between merely surviving a market shift and actually thriving in it.
So, to understand planning, we obviously need a plan of our own, right? Here is our roadmap. We'll look at the blueprint of success, why planning actually matters, the pros and cons, the steps to effective planning, and finally, the different types of plans.
Okay, before we really get into the weeds, I want you to imagine something. You're leading a team into a totally volatile, shifting market. How do you chart a course into the unknown without, flying completely blind? It's a pretty daunting position. You've got limited resources, incredibly tight deadlines, and a team looking directly at you for answers. Well, that is exactly the headache that proper organizational planning is designed to cure. Section 1. The Blueprint of Success. Foundation of Planning.
Planning is step one in the management process for a very good reason. Before you execute anything, you have to consciously decide what to do, how to do it, and who's actually in charge. It's literally the act of setting your objectives, finding the absolute best courses of action, and building crystal clear strategies to hit those big organizational goals. You've got to thoroughly assess your environment, scrutinize all the external and internal factors, set firm timelines, and meticulously map out the whole shebang.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how management philosopher Henry Mintzberg totally reframed this. Back in 1994, he argued that planning shouldn't just be viewed as stagnant paperwork or rigid rules locked in a filing cabinet somewhere. Instead, he introduced this idea of planning as learning. It's an ongoing, highly adaptive process. Basically, your team learns through the actual act of planning itself. Think about it. By running scenarios and constantly adjusting your strategies, your whole organization naturally gets smarter, faster, and infinitely more resilient to sudden shocks.
This learning approach builds perfectly into what's known as the rational planning model. This is the core idea that managers can defeat chaos not by just blindly guessing or going with their gut, but through a highly systematic, rational decision-making process. You look at all the available data objectively, you strip away the emotion, and you mathematically selected the best possible path forward. It turns a totally chaotic landscape into a structured, manageable path.
Section 2. Why planning matters. Offsetting uncertainty. You see, planning isn't just some isolated retreat for the C-suite. It's pervasive. It connects every single department, from the top floor all the way to the front lines. It's a goal-oriented, continuous, and flexible loop. It also relies heavily on forecasting, carefully looking at historical trends to predict future conditions. By doing that, you're systematically reducing risk and preparing your teams for the unexpected. It guarantees that every single dollar an hour your team spends is utilized with maximum efficiency. When you point everyone in the organization toward the exact same objective, it eliminates so much costly waste and frustrating duplication. But here's the real kicker. Setting a plan today creates the exact measuring stick you're going to use tomorrow. By establishing clear standards right now, managers have concrete benchmarks. So if actual results start drifting off course, you aren't left scratching your head wondering what went wrong. You have the data to reel everything right back on track immediately.
Section 3. The Pros and Cons. Evaluating the map.
Because planning really is a double-edged sword. On one side, a great plan gives you a massive competitive edge, letting you respond to market changes way faster than your rivals. It also seriously boosts team morale, because clear direction cuts down on daily confusion. But, on the flip side, sticking to a plan too rigidly, that breeds a super dangerous false sense of security. It kills your adaptability. Managers might arrogantly think everything is perfectly under control even when the actual on-the-ground environment has completely shifted right under their feet.
Plus, we have to be honest here. The process itself is notoriously time-consuming. You can easily fall into analysis paralysis, completely killing your momentum. And the biggest, most critical risk of all? Probability and uncertainty. Because you're relying on predictions, if your initial forecasts are wrong, or you're feeding bad data into your models, you are literally steering your entire organization off a cliff, just with incredible efficiency.
Section 4. Effective Planning. Steps to Success.
To avoid those treacherous traps, we need a proven framework. Step 1. Establish crystal clear goals. Step 2, and this is absolutely crucial, develop alternative plans. You always need backup options. Third, rationally evaluate those alternatives. Fourth, make your final selection. Fifth, roll up your sleeves and implement it across the board. And finally, step 6, perform reactive planning. Because the winds will inevitably change, and when they do, you've got to be ready to quickly adjust the sails.
But listen, those steps only work if you actually cultivate the right environment. You have to build a genuine planning culture. That means leading from the top down. Senior leadership has to model this stuff. You also need to train your people, because quite frankly, a lot of folks aren't taught how to plan properly. Crucially, reward the planning process, and don't punish teams when they have to pivot to meet new expectations. Oh, and above all else, avoid planning just for the sake of planning. If you draw a map, actually use it.
Section 5. Types of plans, a fleet of maps.
You can't just have one single map for a massive organization. It's more like 4 interlocking layers working together. At the very top, you have strategic planning. That's your big picture, long-term goals. Then you break that down into tactical planning, which focuses on mid-level departmental objectives. Underneath that is operational planning, dictating the day-to-day granular tasks. And the fourth incredibly vital piece, contingency planning.
Let's actually pause on that last one, because it's often the difference between life and death for a business. Contingency planning forces us to explicitly ask, what if? It's actively preparing for completely unforeseen circumstances. It basically ensures you have alternative lifeboats fully stocked, properly maintained, and ready to deploy long before a massive storm ever actually hits your organization.
Ultimately, planning isn't just some box you check off at the start of the quarter. It is the absolute bedrock from which all other management tasks flow. Whether you're organizing capital, leading and inspiring your people, or controlling final outcomes, none of that works without a plan. Without it, there's nothing to organize, nowhere meaningful to lead your team, and absolutely nothing to measure.
So, as we wrap up this explainer and you step back out into your own unpredictable market, I want you to ask yourself, your goals are set, your timelines are drawn, but when the inevitable unexpected actually strikes, is your plan going to be a flexible roadmap that guides your team to safety or a rigid roadblock that prevents you from adapting? Keep that firmly in mind next time you map out your organization's future. Thanks so much for joining me.